Welcome back to the Base Alpha podcast, Touching Base. Before I do introduce today's guest, I want you to hit like and make sure you hit subscribe. I want to continue delivering value just like this. So, today's guest, Steve Gibbons. Nice to have you here, mate.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. You've had quite the journey. You grew up in Eaton Park in Stoke. Were an avid footballer when you were younger. Was it Stoke City you were with?
Yeah.
Up until the age of 15.
Yeah.
Got taken for a significant sum of money later down the line. Dealing with a life-changing accident, which we'll dig into a bit later on, to building a seven-figure business. For listeners who don't know your story, looking back at your formative years, what's the one defining moment that you believed shaped you and then instilled in you that drive that we've got?
I think I couldn't really pick out a single defining moment. I think as you sort of progress in life, you take on board several different sort of things, and you progress as a person, and you sort of change as you get older, as people do say. So I think for me, it's just a case of just continually developing, really, and just striving for more and doing what we want to do. So I couldn't really pin it down to one sort of moment. Cool.
So growing up in Eaton Park, Stoke-on-Trent, what was that like for people who don't know the area and not familiar with Stoke? What was that like? In the 80s, was it?
So I was born in 1980, Eaton Park, it's a lovely estate. Lived there with my mum, my dad, my brother and my sister. And we grew up there, went to local high school and so on. My dad worked as a paint sprayer at Creda, so they did sort of ovens and things like that. And I remember, he worked hard to provide for the family. Some weeks he'd do sort of 7 days a week and so on, just to, make sure there was enough money there to keep us going. So you kind of take that as you grow up.
That work ethic.
Yeah, that work ethic comes from your parents as well. But it was a lovely estate, really. And it was always difficult with, when you see your parents working so hard to try and better the life that you've got. And then, as a young kid, you want everything that everyone else has got, as you do. It's natural. So I think, growing up, it's there's too much keeping up with the Joneses, let's say, that we obviously avoided at the time. So,
Okay. So knowing you personally and working with you, a couple of weeks ago, you made an interesting comment about a comment that your dad made. Okay?
Yeah.
What sort of relationship have you got with your dad, and what sort of influence has he had on your progression, through your lifetime into the position that you're in? What sort of influence did he have?
I think the work ethic. My dad's a really positive guy. He won't take a negative. He'll always find a positive in it, no matter what. He's worked hard. He's the kind of bloke that if he wants something done, he'll go and do it. And he's always brought us up to say, focus on the moment that you're in. Don't look back, don't look forward. And concentrate on that and go and achieve what you want to achieve at that moment. He's always been sort of an influential figure, I would say, throughout life, from when we were young, even now. He's still the same now. And he's quite clever with it, to be honest, because there'll be things he'll say that you just know he wants a reaction out of,
Yeah.
And it's not, not nasty, but, he knows what to say.
Just causes enough friction for you to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think even as a coach, I think you have those sorts of clients and people that you speak to that need that. Some people need an arm around the shoulder.
Yeah.
Some people need that little bit of friction. So I completely understand that. In terms of school and then going into football, how did that come about? Did you have a natural ability when it came to football, or was it just something that you picked up and you just, enjoyed and then kind of grew from there? Was it something that you displayed a natural ability for from the beginning or not?
So when I was young, I remember I was probably 8, maybe 9. My dad took me down to the local high school to start with the lads and dad's side. And obviously as the years progressed, I was sort of playing 1, maybe 2 years above at school.
Okay.
So I was playing with the older team, and I was playing in positions that, really a lad from that year should have been playing. So I think that kind of shows that, I displayed something. And obviously played for the school, played for the city, played for the county. Got got trials at Stoke, got sort of set on into their School of Excellence, and was there for a number of years. And it was down at Staff's Uni actually. So you used to go down Staff's Uni every I think it was every Friday, and you'd go and you'd train on the AstroTurf there. And Tony Lacey used to come down on the minibus. You'd have to go in, sign on, and they were good times. And I can't remember exactly what happened when it finished, but I've got a vague memory that they stopped the sort of academy at that point.
Right, yeah.
Something happened; they completely stopped it, and we never sort of got back. From there, they had trials at Vale, which were indoor at a college.
Mm-hmm. How did that go?
Not great at all. So I played as a centre back, so central defence, old school sort of central defence, and to go and play five-a-side indoor as a sort of trial didn't really go very well, and obviously I didn't get offered anything from that. And then from then it was just kind of Sunday league football from then on. And I think you kind of, when you get that sort of rejection and you fall away from it, something you've wanted to do so much, you kind of fall out of love with it then.
Yeah.
And by the age of sort of 18, 19, when I had my first child, I'd completely stopped playing football.
How did you handle that rejection? Because I'm sure, were you in a position where you thought, I could really make something out of this? Did that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, well, at the time, yeah, definitely thought that. Thought this is going good, doing well, achieving well, city, county, at Stoke. We're going somewhere here, and it just wasn't to be. And I think at the time, it's always the same when you fail at something and something happens. It's kind of devastating. You take it personally. And it's only as years later, you kind of sit there and analyse it and think, well, hang on a minute, was I actually good enough? Could I have actually made it? Did I show enough sort of determination? Did I go the extra mile? And you look at some of these footballers nowadays, and they dedicate their life to football. They're training, they're going home, they're eating the right stuff. And they're constantly dedicated to it.
Then you got Paul Gascoigne.
And then, and I suppose I was never really like that.
Yeah.
There were so many things I did as a child in other sports and things as well. But yeah, at the time, I think that's.
Did you realise that at the time, or kind of as you've got older?
No, not at the time. Yeah, it's only as you get older.
So that shows a lot of ownership, really. There, like, what role did I have to play in that decision being made? That decision going against me. So, yeah, completely understand that. Now, going from when you got released at the age of 15, is that right?
14, 15.
14, 15. Okay. Up until you kind of found a career path, what did that sort of window of time look like for yourself?
I think like any sort of high school child at that age, you don't really know what you're going to do. You've got no direction. You just go into school, doing what you do, going home playing with your mates, whether that be out play football or whatever. And at that time, those sort of years, there was no sort of idea until I kind of left school. And when it was coming up to school leaving time, and a lot of my friends were going college and this, that, and the other, my dad says, "You're not going college, son." What do you mean, I'm not going college? You're not going college 5 days a week.
Why is that? What was his thought process behind that?
So my dad's thought, it goes back to the work ethic. So my dad saw that if you go college and you just go college, you go there to sort of toss it off, sort of thing. And his idea has always been, you go out to work, you start earning, get a trade. That was what he said to me straight away. Go and get a trade. Go to college, but work at the same time. Go and get an apprenticeship. And and at the time, you sit there and, Dad, everyone's going to college here. They're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
They're going to learn something, but it's going to be fun. No, you go and work. So that was what happened, really. I was sort of advised and pushed as such by my dad to go and do that. And I think from his point of view there, his sort of idea behind that is that you've got something for life then. You've got your direction straight away. You know what your career path is. You're straight out, you're straight at it, and you start building straight away. So yeah, that's what happened from school then.
Okay, so we're talking the apprenticeship. What did that entail? What did that look like for you?
So initially, I'd applied for Michelin. So basically Michelin was the best apprenticeship in the area at the time. Now I'm sure thousands of people used to apply for an apprenticeship there. And at the time when I joined, only 6 a year got sort of accepted.
Wow, okay.
And I remember going and having the interview, and you do sort of hands-on tests, sort of aptitude tests and things like that. And I remember saying to me, Dad, Lord of Averages here saying, I'm not going to get in. You know, hopefully I will, but I might not. What do I do? And he said, well, you've got to go and apply somewhere else. Keep applying until something lands. So that's what I did. Applied at a number of places. Didn't get the phone call from Michelin. Didn't get in. And at the time I'd started then working for another company as sort of a metal fabricator.
Okay.
So I was doing welding, grinding, manufacturing with steel. And it was a time with no mobile phones.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a mobile phone. And I remember being at work down on Victoria Road in Fenton. And someone at the office coming to me, Steve, you need to ring your mum. She's rang the office. Right, okay. So on my lunch break, went out down to local phone box, rang my mum. Said, Mum, what's up? You've had a phone call, Michelin. Someone's not got their exam results. Your first reserve, you need to go in. Right, okay. So went in. Basically, it was I'd passed then, so I was literally first reserve. I'm in as long as you pass the medical. So went down, had the medical, and yeah, moved from where I was straight into Michelin. And that apprenticeship, it was a 4-year sort of modern apprenticeship, mechanical and electrical engineering. 2 years dedicated in the training school with 1 day a week college, and then 2 years out on the factory doing what you've learned sort of thing. And it was very, very regimented. Very regimented. You know, it was really well organised, really sort of, you can't step out of line, you know, and you've got to do what you're there to do, basically. And the training, if you speak to anybody around Stoke, they'll tell you the Michelin apprenticeship is the best training you'll get within engineering. So yeah, the 4 years went by and they announced that they were closing the factory in 2001.
How did you take that?
We were devastated at the time because you kind of went to Michelin having the thought, you've got a job for life, because it had been there so long. I think in the 80s they'd had a massive cull and reduced a lot of staff. But then, you know, you can there and you think you're going to be there forever. And the news came, and at the time I'd got my daughter at this time, so she's coming up to 1.
How old are you at this point?
20. Yeah, I would have been 20 then. And they basically offered me a transfer to Ballymena in Ireland, to the factory over there. And they offered it to all the lads, all the 6 of us. And the other 5 lads said, we're going to go over, have a look. Why are you interested in transferring? No, we just want to go over, have a look for a jolly. And that wasn't right for me.
That was the same thing with the college thing, I suppose.
Yeah, so I knew that I wasn't going to go there. Straight away I knew, you know, I can't go. I'm not uprooting my family. I've got a young daughter, got a house. I'm not going to go. So what's the point of me going to go and visit it? So straight away then I started thinking, what am I going to do now? And we got offered to be retrained in whatever we wanted, so you could have additional training. And I'd always enjoyed the electrical side more. So I took the sort of extra electrical training, did that before we left. And then, yeah, that was it at Michelin, really. They sort of came to an end.
Okay, so you've got the new training, you're an electrician now at this point, right?
Yep.
You went self-employed at 22, is that right?
Yeah, so when I left Michelin, I'd obviously got to go and get a job because I got to provide for my family. And I left Michelin thinking, yeah, I've got my electrical qualifications now. I'll jump in a job. I'll walk in one. Wasn't the case.
Nothing came.
Wasn't the case, no. So everywhere I went, dead end.
Okay.
You've got no experience. You've worked on a factory. You've not been out doing the electrical installation work. And that constantly, every door I opened got closed. So I'd got to work because I needed, obviously, fund the house and my young daughter. So I ended up applying for a job repairing mobile phones.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And that's what I went and did. And I did that for 6 months, sitting at a bench, repairing electronics, mobile phones, taking chips out and things like that. It was never for me, really. It was sort of a stepping stone to make sure I'm earning for the family and so on. And within 6 months, I got offered a position on a local electrical company. And I remember the owner of the company saying to me, look, you know, you've had good training at Mixon. Yeah, okay, it's not in the industry that we're in right now, that we're in. He says, but you can bring a lot of that on. You've got your qualifications. I'm prepared to give you a chance. And he said, so, you know, we'll offer you a job. Oh, brilliant. He says, but what we're going to do, because you're not experienced, we're not going to be able to give you electrician's rate. So he sort of put me between an apprentice and an electrician, and the class as an electrical improver.
Yeah.
So you kind of...
Is that kind of like a no man's land?
Yeah, you're kind of in between. And
Yeah.
and as an apprentice, you sort of come out your time and you've done your 4-year apprenticeship, but even now, you know, you're not sort of fully there because you haven't got all the experience. So you kind of do step onto that anyway. So I was fine with that. He stepped me onto that and he said, if in 12 months to 18 months you're not on electrical, you know, electrician's rate, you never will be. Like, right, okay.
How did that make you feel?
So at that point I'm thinking, let's see what happens.
Wasn't that a part of you thought, I'm going to prove this cunt wrong? Or haven't you got that in you?
Them thoughts come into my mind all the time. If someone tells me I can't do something or I won't achieve something, I'll go and achieve it. I'll make sure I do. And I think within 6 months, I was running jobs. So I was supervising other electricians who've been in, you know, 30, 40-year-old electricians who were, you know, at the time I'm 21, 22.
Okay.
You know, when they're out doing the work, I'm out testing the work, you know, checking what they've done and managing the job with another chap. And I thought, I'm definitely getting this electrician's rate. Never came.
Why do you think that was?
I think probably because I would say more so that he probably looked and thought, you know, we're getting a lot out of this chap for the money that we're paying. Let's sort of
keep him in his box.
Keep him in his lane, keep him where he is. Which I work totally the opposite to that, really.
I was just about to ask you that.
Yeah, I don't work that way. If someone's sort of progressing and showing sort of initiative and you can look at them and sort of think, you know, they are what I want in my business. We'll try and promote them.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we look for. But yeah, basically after the 12 to 18 months, I went self-employed and went working for another electrical contractor on probably £3 or £4 an hour more.
How was that transition for you? Because there's a lot of lads nowadays, especially there's a few lads that I coach that have just gone self-employed. What would you say the pitfalls are to avoid when you are making that transition from paid work, you know, for somebody, to kind of generating your own income?
I think, and the way I did it, so I obviously subcontracted to an electrical company, and I knew people who were on there already working for them, and there'd been a continuity of work, and obviously that's what you look for at that sort of age, and you know, with a family and house, you've got to make sure that what you're doing is going to provide. But at this point, I'm thinking to myself, well, what I'm doing now isn't going to provide in a few years if my rate doesn't go up. You know, if I'm not getting recognised for what I'm doing now, will I ever? And I just thought, you know, the time's got to come. I've either got to make that leap or be satisfied with what I've got. And I'm never satisfied. Yeah.
What do you think has embedded that in you, that drive to kind of push forward? Because a lot of people, for example, those 30 or 40-year-olds that you were supervising, they obviously settled at one point.
Yeah.
What makes that happen? What made you different? What vision did you have for your life to kind of think, you know what, I'm not going to be like these old fuckers here, you know?
I think it came, I'm going to say, I think it came from my dad, because my dad's always sort of been like that. He's wanted to provide a better life for us as a family. And I kind of took that on. And I think you kind of, you can, it's very easy to get stuck. Get stuck in the same place, going out, doing your 9 to 5, doing what you're doing, being sort of settling for it. But when you've got the ambition and the drive and you want to achieve more, you've got to go and do it. You know, and don't be scared of it, and you can't be scared of failing, really, because if you don't fail, then you haven't tried, really. You know, so that's basically what I did. I just jumped straight into it, and I was straight out with other sort of electricians on jobs, big jobs as well, central Manchester, London, places like that. And I was actually going to work Monday to Friday, and then I was going work down London at weekends to earn more money for the family. And that's how, you know, I'd always wanted more, always strive for more.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got an interesting stat here, okay? So the average tradesman, including electricians, earn around 37.5k per year once you factor in costs. Obviously, you've got cash in hand, work, that sort of stuff, okay? What do you think keeps most people stuck there?
Fear. Fear of the unknown, really. I think, you know when you're a good electrician, but people just get settled and they know the work's there. They know they're getting paid every week. People like to see and be content with knowing exactly what they've got coming in every week and budgeting for it. You know, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what people want to do. But it was just never for me. I liked to go out and take a risk to get the reward.
Nice. So we're self-employed now. We're doing well. You mentioned before that you got taken for a 5-figure sum. Was that in your 20s?
No, so that was actually only 9 years ago.
Okay.
8 to 9 years ago.
How did that all come about?
So I was basically asked to go and help set up and run and manage an electrical division with a development company. And I knew the guy who the MD of the development company. And I'd got a lot of respect for him. I'd known him from a young age. And he asked me, and I thought, you know what? Yeah, come on, let's do this. So off I went with him. Completely started basically with him. There was just myself. So there was me out doing the sort of electrical installation. And they were getting a lot of good high-end property jobs. So they were doing building £1 million-2 million houses.
Nice.
So it was good work. You know, it was great work. And, you know, we did all right out of it, but they came on some financial hardship. And I think you never know the ins and outs, but I would probably say it was from mismanagement. But, you know, you don't know that for sure. It's difficult. I know, I've seen it now that when you grow in a business, it's difficult to manage the cash flow. Maybe that's what happened to them. But yeah, ultimately they ended up going into administration.
Okay.
And yeah, I was owed sort of 5-figure sum, quite a lot of money, which at the time absolutely crippled me.
Yeah.
Couldn't pay my mortgage, had no work.
Because you put all your eggs in this one basket.
Yeah, everything was.
How did you get through that period?
It was difficult. Difficult, yeah. It was difficult for the wife, you know, coming home to the wife and the wife being in tears was hard. And, you know, I always had to just reassure her and say, look, I'll get something, I'll get sorted. You know what I'm like. I'm not going to sit down and sort of take it and let it push me back. So that's when I founded, obviously, Smart Electrical Installations.
Okay.
And I kind of made a promise to myself at that point that I won't allow us as a family to be put in that position again, where somebody else's sort of, I don't know how to say it, somebody else's sort of issues can control the outcome of my life.
Yeah.
And I made that mental promise to myself.
Yeah. I was about to ask you, did going back into employment ever cross your mind? But with what you just said, probably not. No. So I'd had a brief stint of employment before that. So I'd had a brief stint of employment and then come back out of it to do that with him. And you know what? I learned so much from that situation. Learned a lot from the company that they were, how they operated, how they run. How not to operate in some instances.
And how not to operate, yeah, indeed, yeah. So, you know, there's always something you can learn from a bad situation. And you've got to look at it that way. You've got to take what you can from it. And I say to people now, you know, people will slag this guy off, they'll slate him. And I'm like, doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother you when he's taking you that for that amount of money. No, because if he hadn't have done that, if that hadn't have happened in my life, I wouldn't be where I am now. And that's how I look back at things like that now.
Yeah. So Smart Electrical, starting like 2018?
Yeah.
Okay, so your math is awful. 6 years old, 7 years old?
2018, so I was 30, what's that? 37?
Yeah, so
37?
yeah, what I'm saying is the business is 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, the business now, sorry, yeah.
So that was from 0 to 7, multi-7 figures in 7 years.
Yeah. Which realistically, so it was founded in 2018. Started trading probably July of 2018.
Okay.
And in the period of, in the period between losing the money and starting smart trading was a really bad period. And at this time I'd gone apprentice. So an apprentice had come work with me at the previous company. And I'd said to him, I said, look, you know, the next couple of lady talked to him, told him what had gone on. I said, the next couple of months might not be pretty. However, I'll stick by you if you stick by me. I understand if you want to go off and do your own thing, but I promise you, we'll get back to a good position. And for a couple of months, you know, we were doing little jobs and he was getting paid more than me. So I was getting money.
I've been there.
And I was making sure that he was getting paid.
I've been there. There's months where you don't get paid for
Yeah.
You have to pay everyone else out.
Yeah.
And I think entrepreneurship, running a business is kind of glamorized, but there's not enough people who talk about those shitty months, quarters, even years sometimes, where you're literally holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of those. There can be, especially in the initial stages.
Yeah.
And that transition period. You know, we were even painting fences. We were working with local builders, doing landscaping and all sorts, just to make sure that we were earning a bit of money just to get going until I sort of built my contacts back up and sort of put myself back out there as Smart Electrical. So yeah, we started sort of in July 2018, and we did a few jobs, and at that point it was kind of, let's just get back on his feet. Let's just get back to working on the tools, doing what we do, earning the money, going out and work for it. And that's what we did for the first 6 months. And then I'd got in touch with an old friend of mine who's now my business partner, Tim. And basically me and Tim, going back to sort of 2003, we're sort of in competition with each other. So when I first went self-employed, he worked with his dad, and I'd ended up working with another lad, a great bloke he was. And we competed against each other on projects, so we'd both prize them. He'd win some with his dad, we'd win some. But then we'd always end up helping each other out. If you kind of came stuck on a job and you were behind, you'd go and help each other. So although there was that competitiveness, there was also that sort of support between us all.
Why would you do that? Because to a lot of people watching and listening this, it might sound, what you did there might sound counterproductive to what you wanted to achieve. Why is it that you went and helped out your competition? What was your thought process behind that?
I think at the time there was a lot of work, and we were competing, but we were both sort of subcontracting to the same main company.
Got you. Okay.
So they'd price to the main company, we'd price to the main company, and we'd sort of win a share each. And you didn't want to be the one that was falling behind on a job because it didn't look great. And they'd come in and they'd be laughing, oh, come get you out the poo, have we? You know, that sort of thing. And there's that bit of camaraderie around it. But it's just support. You know, life's hard enough without having support around you.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to support each other.
For sure.
And that's how it was at the time. So we'd kind of we ended up going in separate ways, different career paths. And we sort of we'd kept in touch, but we'd never sort of got done much work together since then. And then January 2019, that's when Tim decided to take the leap from full-time employment and come and join me at Smart Electrical.
Okay.
And at the time, and this goes back to what you were saying just regarding making that sort of leap, he was well settled at the job in terms of he'd got the job he wanted. He was a contracts manager, but he was never fully happy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the money that you're on, you know, I don't know exactly, but I'd say he was taking home sort of a couple of grand a month,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2.5.
Yeah.
And he was sort of managing the electrical side of this company. And I remember saying to him, mate, you can achieve so much more. Why don't you go and do something on your own? Go back to being self-employed and get something going. And he was always worried about getting work and ensuring that he could provide for the family, making sure he gets paid every month, because as we've just discussed, sometimes you're the last one to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So that concerned him, and he'd been offered to go and, similar to my situation actually, he'd been offered to go and do an electrical division with another building company.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, mate, don't do it. You know, I've been there. Stay away from it. I said, if you're concerned about going on your own, I'm set up. You know, we've got the business, we've got the NIC, which is the sort of governing body we kind of.
So you needed that reassurance, didn't you?
Yeah, you know, we're set up with the business bank accounts there, the accreditations there, the business is formed. You know, we've got a few sort of contacts to get us going, and the work starting. And I said, you know, you might be surprised. You know, once you take the leap, more of your old contacts may end up getting in touch with you and, you know, and wanting you, because people buy off people, don't they? And
Yeah.
once you're satisfied with somebody, you want to stick with them.
Yeah.
So we had several meetings in Costa Coffee, sat down discussing what we could do, and we kind of touched on the fact that we'd always said back in 2003, we'd always said that if ever the opportunity came up to do something together, we always thought that we could achieve something.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we kind of said, yeah, come on, let's do this. Let's do it. So yeah, he joined in January 2019, and we were just stronger together. You know, and we said, you know, you'll find that one of us will have strengths in different areas compared to the other, and vice versa. So let's just get started, see what his strengths are in terms of the partnership,
Yeah.
and let's work towards them. You know, and at the time he was a contracts manager, so he wasn't on the tools. He was out with customers, and he's fantastic with customers. You know, he's great with people. And I said, you know, it'd be ideal if you come and you're not on the tools, you're out with the customers and you're helping to generate that sort of work. I don't mind being the guy out on the tools doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So he came and we were all on the tools, me, Tim and an apprentice, on the tools for a while. And then it just started to grow. Probably 6 months later, it just started going crazy, really.
Okay.
People coming, wanting more.
Okay, so that point from where Tim come on board to where we are today, what have been the bottlenecks that you've had to overcome as a business in terms of, it might be staffing, it might be finding the work, it might be management, it might be working on yourself as an individual so you can become a better sort of leader.
Yeah.
What things and what obstacles have you faced along the way, and how have you overcome them? What 2 or 3 kind of stick out in your mind on a personal level for yourself?
Staffing is probably the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to sort of grow the customer base, you know, with the kind of people that we are, I suppose. We get on with people. We're good at this job, you know, we can, we're more than comfortable going out and getting the work. The issue then is, you know, executing it.
Yeah, can you fulfill the work?
Can you do it? You know, we'd got to that point where there was 3 of us, then someone else joined us, then another joined us. And by the end of 2020, we were up to 5. There was 5 of us. And we've always set about making sure we get the right kind of person. Mm-hmm. They've got to have the right attitude. They've got to have the right sort of persona. Mm-hmm. We don't want no one coming in and upsetting the apple cart. Everybody gets on. You know, there's no sort of arguing, there's no bickering, nobody sort of slating each other. And they all help each other out. And that's been, sometimes I say we're fortunate, that we've got the team that we have. But I think you create your own fortune, don't you?
You do.
Yeah.
You do. I definitely agree with that. I think when people say he got lucky or they got lucky, to an extent, but you've got to put yourself in a position where you're prepared to take the opportunity.
Yeah. That's
what luck is, and preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And people deem that as lucky. So in terms of staff now, how many employees have you got within the business, and what are future plans for Smart Electrical going forward?
So I think there's 18 of us at the moment.
Okay.
5 of us are in the office.
Mm-hmm.
So there's myself and Tim. We've got operations manager, office manager, and then marketing manager, who started recently, really. So he's just getting to grips with all the sort of marketing side of what we do. So there's 5 of us in the office. The rest are out on the tools. I think of them, there's 4 apprentices, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment, we're looking at the sort of potential order book and the work for 2025, and we're going to need another apprentice at least, maybe 2, and then hopefully another electrician at the moment, just with the orders that we've got coming up for Q1 of 2025.
What sort of orders are you dealing with now, and how do they differ in size, and the sort of people that are choosing to hire you, how has that changed, and what has been the tipping point from, each one of those ends of the spectrum?
Yeah, I think, like I've just said, in terms of the customer base, they sort of grown in confidence with us. A lot of them have also got new sort of directives on sort of net zero, reducing the carbon footprint and things like that. So their projects are naturally getting bigger. Maybe when we first started, we wouldn't have been able to cope with them. Obviously, we can now. We've got a large enough team. And I think as well, it almost feels like once you're sort of at 5 years old, you suddenly become an established business. And I think that's the sort of thought that people have on you, and they've seen you there for so long, and they know what.
I think Steve ain't fucking off anytime soon.
Exactly that, yeah. And again, it just instills confidence. So yeah, we can sort of cope with the larger work now as well.
Okay. I want to touch on a period in your life that was very much up in the air. I'm talking about the accident that happened in 2020. I'll let you tell, how it all went down, and then we'll dig into how that kind of changed your perspective in terms of running a business, how you operate, what was really important in life. So in 2020, what happened?
So it was the 9th of December, 2020. I remember
the date?
Remember it like it was yesterday, yeah. So we were working on a factory, and it was at the point where there was 4 or 5 of us in the business. We're all pretty much on the tools. Business partner was semi off the tools at this point, I think, but we'd all got to go and muck in on this job. It was a high paced job, got to be done quick. We've got limited time to do it.
So were you meant to be there that day or not?
Yeah, so I was planning to be there. Didn't plan for the accident, obviously.
Of course.
So I think we'd kind of left early, gone to site, and I think around about 1 o'clock, I'd not ate. So we got there all day. I've been up since 6, not had anything to eat. Now at this point in my life, I'm nearly 20 stone, and I'm trying to get in shape a bit more, trying to lose weight. And it's a common misconception that if you don't eat enough, you're going to lose weight. And that's what I used to do, because I didn't understand nutrition. And I think that's what led to what happened. But basically we were working in the factory. Around about 1 o'clock, I said to my business partner, I said, I don't feel well. He said, well, what's up? I said, well, I feel like the walls closing in on me, and I could just feel the walls doing sort of that on me. He said, sit down for a bit, we'll go have a break. I said, no, I'll be okay. We've got to get done. I'll just crack on. 15, 20 minutes later, we had to go round to another area, and one of the lads had to go into a bit of a roof void, like a bit of a loft space. So my job was stand at the bottom of the steps, feeding the cable up whilst he pulled it across the roof and passed it down to where we were working. And I stood there for what felt like ages. The cable hadn't moved. I think, what's going on here? I'm going to pop my head up. So I only went probably 4 steps up on a step ladder. And I remember thinking, oh, I'm going to faint. And that was it, lights out. Halfway up the step ladder. Woke up on the floor, covered in blood on my head, in absolute agony with my back, with loads of people stood over me.
Mm-hmm.
So I basically passed out up the steps.
What was the fallout from that? What was the damage done from that incident?
In terms of the damage to my body. Yeah, so I'd come around and my back was hurting, and I just thought, oh, it's my back. I've hurt my back before, you know. So I'm lying on the floor. It did feel different. It was a lot more painful. But it was a time in 2020, obviously COVID was around. Mm-hmm. The first aider lady was sat over me. She was on the phone to the ambulance, trying to get an ambulance out. And I just heard, I'd got loads of people looking at me. And I just heard her say, what do you mean you're not sending an ambulance? And at that point I thought, I'm getting up. And I got myself up off the floor. I don't know, I fractured my spine at this point. And I remember lying there thinking, I felt like a goldfish. Everyone stood around me, staring at me. She's on the phone, no ambulance is coming. And I kind of took the decision in my own hands. Well, if an ambulance ain't coming, I'm going there. So I stood up, walked out, said, Tim, get the truck, you're taking me to hospital.
And this is with a fractured spine?
This is with a fractured spine, yeah. Yeah. But again, I suppose that comes down to my mindset. I'm not sitting there and waiting for something to happen. I'm making it happen.
Yeah.
Got in the truck, got taken to Shrewsbury Hospital. Got out the truck, walked in. Went through triage, got my head bandaged up. Went through for an x-ray. Comes back, doctor come in, holding his head in his hands. I'm thinking, this doesn't look good. He says, you fractured your spine. I can't believe you've walked in. I didn't know, and I'm not going to lie there all day waiting for an ambulance. He said, this is bad. This is bad. So what are we going to do, doc? Let me go speak to my colleagues. And off he went and just left me lying on this bed. So I'm lying there thinking, oh my God, I've fractured my spine. And although I'd walked in, the first thought in your mind is, am I going to walk again? You know, am I going to be okay off this? Given the doctor's reaction as well. And basically off he went, he come back in. Told me I'd fractured my spine. I think it was it's L1 vertebrae, which is probably halfway up your back, halfway up your spine.
Lumbar, it's the bottom part.
Yeah, it's around about, I'm sure it was L1 here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I basically got taken to a ward, and I was drip fed, constantly getting fed. Is it Oromorph? So oral morphine.
Okay.
Basically to take the pain away. I think from that point, I was in the clouds, and I don't really know much about what happened from then on. And I was in hospital for 5 days, I think. Several MRI scans, CT scans, X-rays, and so on. And I was in that much pain. I was literally begging for the morphine and the pain relief, basically. And the nurse came around to me one day and she said, we've got a plan. We're going to get you out. So, okay, what's the plan? We're going to have to fit you with a spinal brace. But it means you'll be able to go home. But you can't take this brace off at all.
For how long?
At this point, she didn't tell me. She said, you cannot take this brace off. You've got to sleep in it. You can't shower. You can't bath. Okay, basically this brace is holding my body together, keeping me upright because I couldn't obviously support myself. And she basically said, you know, we're going to get a brace around. We're going to get you fitted. You can go home tomorrow. The next time the nurse come around offered me morphine, I said, I don't want any. I was in pain. I was in agony.
Why?
Did not want to go home on the drugs that I was on because I didn't want my kids to see me the way I was whilst I was in there. So basically, I refused all that kind of heavy painkillers and was just then kind of given cocodamol and ibuprofen, that kind of stuff, just the basic things. So yeah, I got fitted with a spinal brace. Off I went home. The journey home from Shrewsbury Hospital was horrible. And over all the bumps with my back, horrible. And I was literally at home then for a couple of days bedridden. But I'd text my business partner whilst I was lying in bed in the hospital. And I said, mate, I fractured my spine. He was waiting for me at this point, because I told him, wait for me. I said, I'll be out in a couple of hours, mate. Just wait for me. Course, he didn't realise the damage I'd done. So he'd gone home, and I texted him, mate, I fractured my spine. I don't think I'm going to be able to go on the tools again. And obviously, as well as concern, we're both panicking then. How's the business going to sustain me being off the tools and drawing a wage? Mm-hmm. And I kind of said to him, look, don't worry. We'll do something. We'll sort it. We'll plan it. So yeah, I came out to hospital. Was in bed for probably 2 or 3 days. And then I started getting up for an hour at a time, doing a bit on my laptop, because at this time I was going to the office sort of 6 o'clock in the morning, going on the tools at 7:30, 8, back to the office for 4 or 5 till 6, 7 o'clock at night. So there was enough office kind of stuff to do to warrant it. Mm-hmm. It just meant that there was nobody actually out installing and generating the income. So I was obviously, after an hour, I was knackered then. I'd got to get back in bed. But I think within a week, I was fully working from home from my laptop. And then...
Still whilst you got this brace on?
Yeah, with the brace on. And then, so when we split up for Christmas then from work, and on the last day before Christmas, all the lads come in, we have some training, sort of health and safety training. We give the lads a little bit of a drink or whatever, and wish them a Merry Christmas, and off they go. And there was no way I was missing that day. So that was probably 2 weeks later, I was back in the office for that, because there was no way I was missing that.
Still in the brace?
Still in the brace. Yeah, still struggling, still in agony.
How long was that brace on for?
It ended up being on for just over 3 months, I think.
Okay.
I was quite disappointed, actually, because they made me an appointment to go to Oswestry Hospital, which is meant to be one of the best for spinal injuries. Mm-hmm. And they'd made me this appointment for sort of a month, maybe 2 months after. And I'm saying to the missus, great, the brace is coming off. Fantastic. When I got there and they told me it wasn't, I was absolutely devastated. I was ready for it to come off, and I'm saying to the docs, hang on a minute, you told me I'm coming down to have my brace off. I thought that's what's happening. No, we've x-rayed you, when you're ready. You need to go away and come back in 6 weeks. So yeah, but in that time then, I was fit enough, although I'd got the brace on, I was well enough to drive. And so I was out then in the car, driving myself to the office, out to jobs to the lads. And because I wasn't on the tools, work needed to get done a little bit quicker to produce more revenue. So some days I'd be out on the job with the lads, tidying up for them. I was brushing my hand with a spinal brace on, sweeping the job out so that the lads can get out of there quicker to get on to the next job. They all used to say I was mad, really, but...
At what point did you fully delegate, or well, I take you in a position where you've delegated all that sort of work. At what point did you start to delegate the fulfillment side of things?
I think probably within a month, maybe 2 months. Well, I'd say pretty much straight away, to be fair. Mm-hmm. The lads that we had were doing the work. They were doing a lot more work. I was doing a lot more office. I'd done it for 3 months. The business had started to stand me being off the tools, because obviously I couldn't go on the tools. But then when the brace came off and I was sort of getting back to a bit of health, I would go and muck in. I'd do a bit, because it was always in my head, you've got to work, you've got to go and do it. The business won't stand it. So then we sat down and we were like, right, what does this business need to generate to cover the overheads of 2 people off the tools? And ultimately it needed that, because it needed that management anyway. We just never took the step to do it.
Why do you think that was? Was there a fear of losing control?
Yeah. Every tradesman who goes into business thinks that they are the best tradesman that ever walked the earth.
Yeah.
And it's always a worry that whoever follows you and does what you're doing aren't going to do it as good as you. That's nonsense, by the way. There's a lot of good sparks out there who know a lot more than us in different areas. So, yeah, we set about looking at the numbers then, because it's easy to say, oh, we'll just get more work, we'll just get more lads. You can't just do that. You've got to plan it, you've got to look at it, you've got to know your numbers. What overheads do we need to cover? 2 guys being off the tools. Mm-hmm. What does the margins look like? What margins do we need to generate enough to cover that? Mm-hmm. What margins can we get per person? Mm-hmm.
What sort of lifestyle essentially do you want?
Yeah.
On what sort of income supports that, I suppose?
That's it, yeah. So we sat down and put everything on paper. And we got to the sort of figure, I can't remember the number of lads we needed at the time, but we got to the figure of what number of employees we needed to generate enough income.
That's interesting because a lot of people, well, I say a lot of people, me, whenever I've started something, I've always started with the end in mind. How big? Well, first of all, what sort of life do I want? What sort of lifestyle do I want?
Yeah.
How much money and opportunity do I need to facilitate that?
Yeah.
How many customers do I need? How many people do I need to fulfill those customers? Whatever it might be, and whether it was legal or illegal. Okay, that's how I always thought. I thought backwards, reverse engineer the process. It was interesting that essentially you only did that because of this accident that happened.
Ultimately, yeah. If the accident didn't happen, we wouldn't have progressed at the rate that we have.
So the lesson from that, I take it, is delegate as soon as possible the things that somebody else can do potentially better than you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we'd kind of figured out the number of employees we needed, and then we worked from that. Right, okay, what turnover do we need to cover the number of employees? And we knew the customer base that we had at the time was really good, and it was just a matter of tapping into that more and trying to grow the offerings to them as to what we do. And like I said earlier, naturally, as we grew as a team, naturally they gave us more work. And that's pretty much where the start of the growth was, really, from there.
What's the biggest contract you've ever landed money-wise?
At the moment, around about between 300 and 350,000.
That's substantial.
Biggest individual contract, yeah.
Is money everything?
No.
What is?
I think health is more important than money. Without your health, I go to a lot of charitable events, and I see people who are less fortunate. And when I talk about less fortunate, I don't mean in terms of what they've got. I don't mean material things. The health, the fitness, There's a lot of people who need support because they haven't got the health. And for me, I just want to be healthy so that I can sort of be in control of what I can achieve. And that might not sound right, because there's plenty of people out there who've got disabilities or whatever who do achieve a lot. But I just think, without your health, you can be limited if you allow it to.
Yeah. I mean, it becomes more difficult. But I've got a friend, actually, Abid. I'm going to get him on this podcast at some point. He's been in a wheelchair for the last 30 years. He's got a muscle wasting disease. And he jokes with me. He says, when I see you do burpees on your Instagram, it makes me want to get out my fucking chair. Obviously, you can't. But he's somebody that I draw inspiration from. He's got 2 businesses. One's a taxi firm that deals specifically with transporting disabled people from place to place, called Capability. And the other one, he's a car salesman. Funny thing is, when people ring him, he gives it fucking 10-10 on the phone.
Does he?
I had a phone call in front of me the other day. He goes, "What the fuck you want? You want a car?" He goes, "He's a foreigner. We can talk to him how we want." I was pissing myself. And when they show up, there's a guy in a fucking wheelchair, you know?
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying in regards to that. But when we're talking to the point, like, you know, your life is in serious danger because of the choices that you've made, he didn't make that choice to put himself there.
Yeah.
You know? It was kind of thrust upon him.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, just how it went. But when people are making poor decisions and that puts them in bad health, that is insanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insanity. But going back to what you said, yes, I think the underlying kind of layer of the pyramid, as it were, mate, if you're fucked physically, in terms of your health, anything upstream is irrelevant. It doesn't mean shit. Your family are fucked, your business is fucked, everything is irrelevant. It doesn't mean shit. So just going back to what is important for you and what you want to achieve that you touched on, what is it that you want to achieve as an individual?
That's a good question. I never really sit down and look at what I want to achieve personally and where I want to be. It's where we want the business to be and where that will put us.
Would you say you're more money focused or impact focused?
I think 90% of people are money focused, especially in the early stages of the career or the business or the development. I think as time goes on, you get to a point where you want to have an impact on people around you. Like I said earlier, we do a lot of charity events. We go to a lot of charity balls. We put on a charity golf day earlier on this year for raise money for the Pink Sisters and Misters Cancer Charity. And doing that and seeing the impact that you can have on the local community and how you can support them, you know, with people less fortunate than you who haven't got the health that we spoke about, being able to help those and support them, you know, it means so much to us. You know, that's the way we think.
And is that where you get your get up and go nowadays instead of just thinking, you know, let's make some more money?
Yeah.
And in terms of somebody just starting out, and I've been through this journey myself where I've been hyper money focused in the beginning because maybe it was a mindset thing, you know, thinking there's not enough out there for me to make, you know, I've got to scrimp and save and I've got to, you know, really compete, you know. As soon as I come to that realization that you've had, my business has grown ridiculously.
Yeah.
So how or when did you make that shift in mindset from being money focused? Because everyone starts there. Yeah,
Definitely.
Everyone starts there. When did you make that shift and how did you make that shift?
I think before you can make that shift, you've got to fill your own buckets. You've got to have all your buckets full on the table. You've got to get to that point where you can pinch a bit of water out of that one to go into the other one and so on. You know, you've got to get your own foundations in place. And I don't always mean money, your time. You know, you don't need to give money away. You can go and give your time to have an impact. But I think a lot of it's come probably more so over the last couple of years, and you see what you can do and how you can help people. We recently sponsored a local football academy because they'd started doing some work with a disability team, needed some football strips. So we've gone into a partnership with them for 12 months to help provide that kit to give these underprivileged kids the sort of chance to go and progress and do something that they enjoy. And when you sit back and look at it, I think, you know yourself, there's no better feeling than, you know, it's fulfilling knowing that you've helped someone. Yeah,
Definitely. I think that's the driving factor behind what I do now, especially because when I feel like I've made an actual difference in someone's life, when I get a message saying, you know, I managed to take my top off, I don't feel like a loser in front of my missus, you know, I've got a promotion, whatever it might be, that's life-changing. that's life-changing, you know? And when I focus on that, and when I've shifted my focus to actually helping the individual in front of me and actually showing them that I give a shit, that's when I've had the most joy from my work.
Yeah.
Because I think with any job, any line of work, any business, there's tedious shit that you've got to do again and again and again.
Nobody likes doing that side of it.
No, but it's necessary. It's necessary. How do you, for me, the way I kind of dealt with doing that again and again and again was the fact that, listen, this guy needs me. You know, I've got to serve this person on a deeper level. You know, that's what kind of keeps me going. And I think if you haven't got that in you and you're just in it for the fucking money, in anything, it's going to show in the end. And the impact that you're going to have in the end, whether it's on your own family, your community, other people who are in, who haven't got the same privileges as you, that's going to be stunted massively. And if you're wired just for money, cool. But you'll never be fucking happy.
No.
You will never be happy. You could have £1 billion in your bank account and it will never be enough. It will never, ever be enough. So I think in terms of what you do, the charity work that you do, what was the charity that you did the golf event for?
So we did the golf day for Pink Sisters and Misters Cancer Support Charity.
And what was the
main charities that we support are the Pink Sisters,
Okay.
and the UH&M charity,
okay?
and then the football academy is Pro Level Academy. Now they've actually set up the charity Pro Level Vision, which is to help sort of disabled kids and you know to get access to professional level coaching.
Nice.
People who can't necessarily afford to go and do the pro level football coaching, their charity is aimed at helping that as well. So to be able to support them with that has been really good for us. Really pleased.
Nice. One of your core beliefs is that the comeback is always greater than the setback. Where does that come from?
That comes from all the setbacks I've had. And how I've analysed what's happened and ultimately how we can put layers in place to prevent that from happening again. So if we go back to losing the amount of money that I lost, at that time crippled us, you know, and sat back and thought, why has this happened? How has it happened? Ultimately, what can I do to ensure that that doesn't happen again?
That's a great level of awareness, by the way. Because most people don't think, why has it happened? Think, why me?
Yeah. Oh, they do, yeah. Yeah. And then on top of that, if it does happen, what do I need in place to ensure it doesn't have the impact that that time had on us? And once you've done that and you've put those things in place, you're actually already in a better position than you were at the point of the setback. So just by doing that, the comeback's greater. Same with the spinal injury. You know, why did it happen? Probably because I wasn't eating right. Because I didn't listen to my body and take a break. So what can we do to stop that happening again? You know, yeah, okay, don't get up step ladders, but chances are I'm going to have to. And if I am, what can I do to make sure that I'm well enough to not pass out on steps?
Yeah.
You know, and some of that comes down to the work that I've done with yourself and learning more about nutrition, getting fitter. So straight away, like I said before, you know, the comeback is already better than the setback.
Because you've learned.
Because you've learned from it.
Yeah. And, you know, it's the old adage of, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
That's it, yeah.
And I find it ridiculous that people continue with the same sort of behaviours, approaches, when it hasn't worked for them in the past. So it does take a level of awareness to kind of have that conversation with yourself almost. Right, okay, I fucked up, or this fucked up thing happened.
Yeah.
What role did I have to play in that? What can I do to rectify that? And I think you're very good at that. And on a final note, if there is somebody who's going through a setback, what would your advice be to that person?
Keep going. there's always better times around the corner. Setbacks don't last forever. You've got to have that mindset that you're going to turn that around, you know, because there's a lot of talk about setbacks and, you know, how you come out the other side of them. But setbacks don't last forever. Just the same as the good times don't last forever. You know, in life, you're never going to go through life without a setback. There's always going to be challenges, and navigating your way through those and coming out the other side, you know, is basically what you need to do.
Nice. Steve, been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Enjoyed it.
Glad to have you on.
Thank you.
Until next time, peace.